What's that? They had German planes that had bombs in them. Oh, and there's like bombers that just flew over and just dropped them. Yeah. Right. So if anyone's curious, like why didn't Germany just send boats over there? Why didn't they just invade, you know, like with soldiers and people like that, just to go attack the mainland? Great Britain at the time had a really good navy, so they had a much better navy than Germany did, and they also had a really good air force. So for that reason, Germany's going to continue to do all these aerial attacks, but they're not actually going to be able to break the British defense. So Germany's just going to get really frustrated. They can't have that final decisive blow. Now, has anybody seen this picture before, that sign? Anybody have a shirt that says that, or some kind of variation of it? Raise your hand. You've at least seen it before, yes? Yeah. Okay. Did anyone know that this is actually based off the Germans bombing Great Britain in World War II? Anybody know that that's where that came from? This is what Winston Churchill was telling the people, to keep calm and carry on, to keep fighting against the Germans, even though they're bombing us to smithereens. Just keep calm and carry on. That's exactly what's happening. So you see like this thing that's been on the side of the card, keep calm and provide evidence. You've seen all kinds of keep calm and do something else. That's where all this originates from. It's from World War II.
Is World War?
What's that?
World War I, is that agreed on the test?
No.
Okay, so everything from last time is on.
Yeah, this unit is the interwar years, right before World War II, World War II all through, and then the Cold War that's coming up after. So that's just something interesting you can tell your friends that you know that now.
It's from what?
So, next little part we're going to show some pictures exactly of what this blitz looked like at the time. Take a look at this picture though. This is a cathedral that was in London. Germans bombed London like crazy. They basically like almost leveled the entire city at the time. So you see all this really ominous, really dark, evil clouds pretty much, and then you have this one beacon of hope right there. That's what the like shining light of Great Britain at the time. Yes, Jason.
No, like because they were bombing the cities, didn't this cause like the government to move all children out of the cities into like, more rural areas?
Yeah, they're doing a lot of that at the time. I mean, they weren't just like, well, we'll just hang this out, or we'll just hang out here and stuff like that. They were taking all kinds of provisions against that. Not everybody left. Obviously, there's a ton of civilians that died during this. There were a ton of civilians, houses, obviously, completely leveled, businesses, industries, factories. All these things were happening at this time. So, a couple more images. What's happening in this picture, though, this is essentially what's in British schools at the time. Whenever they heard bombs or bombs that were going off nearby, they had essentially this like duck and cover technique. Okay. Now, if a bomb goes off, is that going to save you?
No.
No. But like we were talking about last class when I was showing this image, though, it does help though. Like if a bomb happened to go off like outside that window, right, and you were under your desk and covered, it's a good chance that like a lot of that glass is going to fly through, cinder blocks, whatever. All the devastation is going to happen. It might not hurt you as much as if you were sitting kind of right next to it. That's kind of the idea. Obviously, it's a total joke though. I mean, if the bomb was going off right next to you, you're in really, really bad shape. And this is what the bombing looked like. Okay? I mean, look at that though. Has anybody seen anything like that in real life? No. Well, probably most people have it. That's just utter devastation, essentially. And then you have the same thing over here. This lady was actually hired by the British government to make a painting of like the devastation. Even though somebody's taking a picture of it, of her painting, so I don't know why they couldn't just use a picture. But yeah, I mean it's more dramatic when you have paintings. So 1940 Battle of Britain also is what is known as the Blitz. This is the devastation that's happened. Okay. I think we have one more little slide notes, and then we're going to keep pushing through.
I didn't have to write that down, right?
No, not from the last one. Those are just kind of just to give you guys an image of how intense actually the Blitz was. So this guy right here, this picture here, Erwin Rommel, he's going to be, you know how for Japan we have Hirohito, he's the emperor, but you also have Tojo, he's the general. Yeah. For Germany you have Hitler, who's essentially the emperor at the time, or the leader, and then you have Rommel, who's his general. That's his most famous general. So Germany's going to invade North Africa too. So Germany's just going all over the place, just trying to take over as much land as humanly possible at this time.
year?
This is about 1940 as well. Okay, everybody got this? This is a really good map though to show you the true extent of how far Germany's going to go. Germany's right here, okay? You know they invaded France here in 1940. They also invaded Poland. They're going to push down through the Balkans region. You guys did that map, I think, last year. So push down through the Balkans. You saw on the last slide they're going to invade North Africa. They're bombing Great Britain over here. They're going to push through also Norway up here. And then they're going to go to Russia, which is what we're going to talk about next. Probably the worst decision that Hitler ever made. Hitler very well could have essentially won, Germany could have won World War II if he didn't decide to go and attack Russia. So let's talk about what is happening now. 1941. Hitler has the brilliant idea to go invade the Soviet Union. Using brilliant sarcastically, which is a horrible idea. We've talked about before, the Soviet Union has basically three things to their advantage. Okay? They have a whole lot of people, they have a whole lot of land, and what happens in the wintertime in Russia? It is not just cold, it is like the coldest thing that you've ever experienced in your life, right? So all of those things Russia has to advantage. Even if Germany is stronger with a better army and things like that, they have a lot of advantages too. So paraphrase this one, please. Hitler is going to get all the way to Moscow. Moscow is kind of like closer to the central areas of Russia, so they're going to cover a lot of territory. We're going to see it in the map here in just a second. But they're going to begin this attack in June. What's the weather like in June? It's great. It's awesome. Yeah, it's like, you know, you can actually be pretty comfortable almost fighting a war in June. But of course, this invasion that they do into Soviet Union is going to take a while for them to take over. So again, main points from this: 1941, Germany is invading USSR. Shorter for Soviet Union. Russia, you want to pin Russia down. Hitler's going to get all the way to Moscow. He can almost take over the capital of Russia. But he's going to be stalled. They're going to stall him.
How many of the soldiers died?
We'll go over the figures at the end, but a ton of Russian people died at this time. But if you remember Stalin, okay, remember we talked about him, he didn't really care so much about people. He just go and kill people for, you know, for even saying something against them. Yeah, he also didn't really care so much about people that they were going to fight. You remember the example that I used for last unit when they were going into battle, sometimes they didn't have enough guns for everyone, so they gave every other person a gun and sent them out to fight? Yeah, that's how much Stalin really cared about people's lives at that time. That's something that they had a lot of as a resource. They had a lot of people, so they can use them as much as they possibly want. Not good if you were in Russia at the time. Everybody got this? Okay. So, I don't want you to understand this entire map, I just kind of want to get you an idea of some of the people that care about like some of the military tactics that they used. Germany basically had three armies: north, center, south, like big armies, divisions. So they wanted to kind of push through really quickly, do this blitzkrieg thing. They were really successful for a long time. Then they're finally going to get to this little dotted area over here. They're trying to go for three cities. One was Leningrad, one was Moscow, and one was Stalingrad. We'll talk a lot about Stalingrad here in a second. Yeah, this is essentially from like June all the way to December. So once December hits, they're going to be basically logged down. They can't do anything else. But just to give you an idea of what the distance is here, this is basically from like Newport News to like Denver. Okay, if you think about the United States, that's a huge amount of territory to cover. So if you know anything about military plans, though, Germany's over here. Okay, they're supplying them over here. Keep supplying. They need to extend fuel further, food further, ammunition, guns, reinforcements, whatever. So all of those things get stretched out so far that their ability to attack is going to be less and less. So let's just see a couple of political cartoons that were kind of at the time. What's happening in this one? Can anybody guess? Who's having the ball?
That's Hitler.
That's Hitler in the ball, right? Who's pushing it?
That's a Russian guy.
Not just a Russian guy, that's Stalin right here. Yeah. Okay, so they're trying to get to Stalingrad, but basically winter, he's dreaming of a white Christmas, kind of like a joke, I guess. against Hitler. Next one, they kind of joked and said that Russia had this general winter, okay, that never lost, because you can't beat winter. Okay, it's just like in Russia you can't win. So essentially, it's taking like tanks and planes and throwing them back. It's just too cold for them to advance. And this is how cold it got. Basically, people were collapsing, corpses frozen essentially on the ground. You have tanks, artillery, all these things like that. They're just going to seize up. Their engines can't run. It's just too cold. Okay. So you can imagine that if you're trying to do an invasion like this in this type of weather, it's not going to work very well. Napoleon tried to do it like 100 years before this, and he also failed. So it's just kind of like a really, really dumb decision by Hitler at this time. So, and also to give you guys kind of like a first-person account of like, especially this Battle of Stalingrad, one of the biggest battles in World War II, is like the turning point. Germany was doing awesome until this point. Take a look at this though. July 29th. Okay, remember they started in June, right? The German soldiers are going to write, Russian troops are completely broken. They cannot hold out any longer to reach the Volga. That's a river that they had. And take Stalingrad. It's not going to be too difficult. The Führer, which is essentially Hitler, knows where the weak point is. Victory is not far away. Everything seems really good in July. Next, you see November. November is, everyone expects us home for Christmas. In Germany, everyone believes that we already hold Stalingrad, which is not true. How wrong they are. If they could only see what Stalingrad has done to our army. Look how intense, just read this to yourself. This last one to yourself and see what you know.
Oh my.
December 26th, the day after Christmas, right? So look at how desperate, okay, how awesome they were in July, and how much just Russia is just constantly just beating them down, and they're really desperate. Okay, they're eating things like cats. Okay? They're going insane essentially. They're just, that's what the war can do to people. That's why this war is such a devastating war at the time. So now you guys get a kind of a first-hand account of how crazy that was. A couple more cartoons. Okay, this is a political cartoon at the time when Germany was trying to take over Stalingrad. This is just a Russian soldier trying to like stop a giant tank. Got it? Now this next picture is a Russian tank that's running down this hill. Basically, it's saying to outwit the German invaders. Right? So this is the turning point of the war. Stalingrad and like this whole invasion of Russia. If you guys ever see like any kind of essay or something like that you have to write, you see on primary source essays, anything like that. This is a big, big moment of World War II. So, last picture that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to do an activity. So, what's happening in this picture? Explosion of, okay, where is it happening? At an airport, maybe a Navy base. What is this? 1941, what's happening? Pearl Harbor. One of the also big turning points of this war. This is how we, essentially, the United States gets into the war. Japan doing a surprise attack. Okay? So now, after this happens, everyone pretty much in the war has picked a side, everyone's involved, all the big players, everything like that is great. Probably not great, but everybody's involved. Now, at the time though, everyone really hated everyone else, essentially, okay? So you're gonna have all these crazy propaganda pictures that are gonna come up. Okay, you can tell for yourself, right? What nation is this right here? Japan, right? Just a giant gorilla with a knife, and you can't really see the picture, but it's like a damsel in distress attacking a damsel, okay? Making people look less than human. You're going to see that online. Okay? Obviously, Japanese are not rats. Okay? They're people, just like you and I, but they're depicted in different ways. Obviously, this is representing a Jewish person. What do they look like? Vampire. What else? I mean, well, like a goblin, right? Yeah. And we were not exonerated from all this propaganda. That's a German propaganda of us, the United States, making a joke of us being liberators. We're actually, our culture and the things that we're doing is also evil too. So, but you also have propaganda on the good side, right? We all think, probably most of the time that Nazis and Germans and Holocaust are all really, really bad things. What do these pictures look like? Yeah, you could easily put like an American flag on this can, and it could be like a Girl Scouts advertising for us, right? So the Germans have the same thing. What does Hitler look like in the middle? What is? He looks like the best guy in the world. He looks like he's like kissing babies and things like that. Okay? Yeah, well, I don't know. Okay. Obviously, that little girl over there, okay, is idolizing Hitler, idolizing Nazism, things like that. Hitler, with kids, you have the